Here we have our nesting of queries. So this is continuing our notes for our database management systems, and specifically with SQL. We've gone over a lot so far with examples, with tables, and queries. Now we're going to continue our search with queries. So inside of our queries, after we go through all of this information right here, we have our nested queries, and that can be found in the playlist linked below the like button. We have an outer query, and then we have an inner query. So if we have an example right here, we want to retrieve the name and address of all employees who work for the research department. Well, we have our select, we have our from, we have our where. We want to retrieve the name and address of all employees, so that's going to be the first, last, and address. This is from our employees, because from our previous examples, when we've looked at the table, something like this, first name, our last name, and then our address is all stored in our employee. So that's where we're getting it from. Right here, we're getting it from our employee. Now this is where our department in, so department number in, and we're going to look at this inner right here. So after we retrieve this, it's for who works for the research department. So the department number in where our research department is. So when we look at this next part, the research department, well, we have our select, we have our from, we have our where. So notice it's just like a query but nested. We need to select the department number because we want to get the department number here. We want to retrieve name and address of all employees who work in our research department. And the way we would connect our employee to our department, because we have to connect our froms, is with the key, which is dnum and dnumber. So if we come back up here, the dno is right here and the dnumber is right here. That's how we would connect them together. So that's what we're doing here. Dnumber in, we want to select the dnumber to pass it through here. And this is from our department where our dname is research. Notice how the dno matches the department number because of the keys. That's important right there. Now, this isn't part of our nested queries or the comparison operators, which we're going to go over next, but this is an example of how we would have it like right here, where we select, we have our distinct ESSN, so distinct ESSN, I forgot exactly what that is, but if we look here, it's going to be the dependence employee social security number, so the one it depends on, and that's going to be for our explicit set. It's from the works on, where our P no, so the project number I think is 1, 2, or 3. So project number can either be 1, 2, or 3. If we had like a nested query for this is what the example is. If we had a nested query inside of here, something like a select from where underneath, we can only pick ones that have a return of 1, 2, or 3. So that's what we're saying here. Now let's look at comparison operators. So we're kind of limited with nesting of queries, right? Like this is just in. Well, comparison operators fix this. So we have any or some or all. When we do nesting of queries, like I said, we can be quite restricted. So this is going to fix that. For example, if we have like 3 is greater than this right here, if we say like 3 is greater than all of this, then it has to be greater than everything inside of here to return true. Or it can have some, and if it's some, it just has to be greater than one of them to return true. So let's look at an example here. We want to list all the names of employees whose salary is greater than the salary of employees in Department 5. The all is an important keyword. It's going to appear right here. So when we're writing this out, we could have like select from where, all, because we know it's an all, and then we want a nested query. And the reason why we know this is just a nested query is because we're listing all the employees whose salary is greater than the salary of all employees. So we can just say, well, we want to check the employees here with this salary and compare the where salary to whatever is returned here. So it's a nested. So we have this written out. Now we just need to fill everything in. We know for the outside query, the outer one, we want to get our results. So the select here is going to be our last name, first name. Now we can see here that I am giving them an alias. We have E1 and E2. That's not necessary because it's just employee, but that's just a interesting thing to do. We don't need alias, it's just good practice. So let's say we have our salary, right? And our salary, we'll come back to this later, but this is just to keep in mind. We want to select our last name and first name because that's what it's asking for us right here. It's from our employee and we are just aliasing right here. So where our alias E1 dot salary, so we're getting the salary right here of this of a name of employees whose salary is greater than the salary of employees in Department 5, that means we have to get the employees in Department 5 for here. So to get the employees in department 5, we have to get department number. So where our department number is equal to 5, we're getting this from our employee, and we want to select and return the salary. So we're going to compare these salaries together. And then we're just going to return whoever has the higher salary for this. So this is for all though. This is not going to work if, like this example right here, if we have like 35K, 50K, and like 70K, or 70K, 15K, 35K, we can see that we have only 70K that passes. So they're not going to pass through because this is an all. Now if we had like a sum or like an any right here, notice how we can have any or sum. So we have an any right here. Well, if we just go off of this, the wording is a little bit wrong here. The numbers don't really correlate right here. So let's just look at the ones here. If we have like this 100K and none of these pan out, just like these don't pan out, well, this would still return true because it's a sum and only one has to pass through. And that's going to be it for comparison operators and nesting of queries.